Good afternoon. I hope that you've had a nice first week back. As a teacher of religious studies, one of the most important topics that I teach is prejudice and discrimination. It's always shocking to students that various groups of people have received such terrible treatment as a result of their religion, skin colour, gender, or sexual orientation. Until the 20th century, women had no right to vote in any country since they were considered inferior beings to men. Today, there are still nations that have not passed female suffrage, such as Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, women have no right to drive. When they go out in the street accompanied by men, it's a rule that they walk behind the man. To a large extent, the Holocaust that occurred during World War II was because of the prejudice against the Jews, blacks and any other members of the population who did not belong to the Aryan race. In Afghanistan, when the Taliban movement was in charge of the nation, women could not receive education because of the prejudices that were against them. They could not leave their homes with their faces uncovered. In the United States, until the 1960s, black people could not sit on the first seats of a bus and could not use the same public restrooms as white people. Likewise, black people were forbidden to drink from the sources of water used by whites. In some cases, the ban was extended to traffic in some areas. Bessie Smith died September 26, 1937, because of the legal segregation in the United States. The singer, who was a victim of a car accident, was taken by ambulance to all hospitals in Mississippi in search for blood transfusion. None allowed her to enter because she was black. Acts like these gave rise to the equal rights movement of races led by Pastor Martin Luther King. His words, "I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the colour of their skin but by the content of their character," still plays such an important role in society today. The terrible scenes in the United States show the treatment of George Floyd by the police, which has left the world shell-shocked. It is understandable that when such prejudice occurs, it leads to protests, and these can sometimes become violent. However, Martin Luther King's oldest son has admitted that his father will be deeply disturbed by the conduct we see in light of the George Floyd protests. Martin Luther King's son joined Piers Morgan and Susanna Reid on Good Morning Britain, where he discussed George's death at the hands of the white policeman, which has since sparked international outcry. There have been several people in the UK who have protested peacefully, but of course, while this is understandable given the social distancing measures for COVID, it has also risked lives. I therefore want to mention the work of one of our fabulous Myddeltonians, Zoe Owen. Zoe has written a letter to the MP to express her feelings on racism and asked for support in getting the message out to the world that racism plays no part in our society. This act seems so very appropriate and sensible during the COVID crisis, and I would encourage you to remember that the most powerful tool against prejudice is your voice, and that most of us are able to speak out like Zoe has done. And the more that we can do this, the greater change that we can bring. As I'm sure that you're aware, the government have proposed that state schools will start the next phase of their education on the 29th of June. As an independent school, we have the advantage of making a decision on the return to school based on our own judgment. I've had several meetings with my senior leadership team about the return to students at Myddelton College and the measures that we need to make. We've come to a decision that to return on the 29th of June for 1 week would not be in the best interest of the Myddelton community, and so we will delay the return for students until September 2020. Public Health Wales on Wednesday said a further 17 people had died after testing positive for COVID-19, taking the total number of deaths in Wales to 1,371, and 82 new cases brought the total of positive tests to 14,203. I therefore think the risks of returning for just 1 week of school are significantly outweighed by the benefits of us waiting until September, where we can ensure that every measure has been considered and implemented, and of course hopefully by then the cases will have dropped significantly. Over the coming weeks, I've instructed my support staff to spend time ensuring that they minimise the risk by putting in place robust protocols and procedures designed to promote the health and well-being of each individual and the entire community. I seek to ensure that we embed a culture that relentlessly prioritises best practice in terms of hygiene and risk management, which is communicated with clarity so parents have confidence in the knowledge that their children are receiving the very best level of care possible. I've given further details of our procedures in the bulletin tonight. I would like to congratulate the following students for achieving Headmaster Commendations this week. Harry Mead for raising £77 for the Red Cross, also achieving a commendation for completing lots of additional work in Spanish. Beatrice Marston for amazing fellowship in helping other classmates who had audio problems due to online lessons by calling them and sharing audio from her computer. Megan Bishop for Spanish cooking this week with the recipe churros con chocolate. Ella Evans for her creative work on A-level physics practicals. Brooke Lee, Taylor Lee and Ava James for becoming word millionaires over half term. Elfrida Corner for reading over 50 books on the Accelerated Reader since September. Ethan Fowkes Jones for demonstrating increased resilience in all subjects this week. Abby Hughes for outstanding essay on Great Gatsby, which gained full marks. Amelia Lloyd for running 75 miles in June for the charity Youth Minds Trust. Joshua Roberts for completing 10 months of Race at Your Pace, total of 103.31 miles. Harry Edwards for Scale the Height of Mount Everest by climbing the equivalent of metres of Mole Famu. Anna Zhang for achieving second place A-level chemistry test, 90%. Congratulations also for the following students in their recent maths assessments: Sam Duke Williams, Charlotte Goddard, Alfie Roberts, Amelia Lloyd and Lewis Bradburn, and Zoe Owen. Congratulations to you all. I look forward to seeing you all next week. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend.